Hello, my name is Sifu Scott Phillips, and Sifu Paul asked me to say a few words at the 25th anniversary dinner of Lin Wan Sam Sao Kung Fu. I'm a student of Sigung Tony Conley, and it's been my absolute pleasure and privilege to know Sifu since 1996. And before I say a few words, I'd just like to pay credit to the other masters in our lineage that have gone before us. So that would be Lao Shui, Ip Shui, Nat Yung, who brought Kung Fu to Australia, Master Dr. Tan, and Dai Sigung Dennis Su Tin, and my own Sifu Tony Conley. And I'd also like to thank the Sifu Paul and the other Sifus of my generation, and the other Daisens who perhaps are no longer here, who you may not know. So I think it's important to convey just how different the world was before there was an internet. Kung Fu knowledge was second and third hand. It was very difficult to find out the truth. There was no YouTube, there was no internet forums. A lot of the martial arts that were taught of all sorts were just not good at all. And when I met Sifu Tony, I had a lot of experience in other kung fu styles, and Sifu said some things to me when we first met that were just considered the worst kind of heresy. He said things like, you need to spend over half of your training time doing sparring or sparring-related things. And he said that just doing forms in the air and jongs will not teach you to fight. And that was, it seems normal today, but that was a very radical idea. You know, there was a serious school of thought that you could just do forms forever and you'd somehow magically get good. And he said things... He said things like, if a Sifu doesn't spar with his students, he can't fight. And it was also heresy. It was, that was what we were brought up to believe in Kung Fu in those days, was that your legitimacy derived from your connection to Hong Kong or China, and that if something was going wrong, it meant that you weren't copying Hong Kong or China faithfully enough. And I came from a Wing Chun background before that, and people would argue back and forth as to which version of which hand technique exactly matched the angles that they were doing it in Hong Kong. And fortunately, Tong Long is a bit more practical than that. But Sifu Tony said things that were really radical. He said that if your system doesn't have an answer for a particular technique, that you need to find an answer. And one of the things we know today, we live in the MMA era, where people will see a technique on the TV screen and start drilling it and adapt it and do a version of it pretty quickly. But it was just not like that back then. It was considered really, really bad to start adding things and taking things away that had been in a system for 100 years. And the prevailing attitude was, who are you to do that? Who are you to change things? And Sifu would say things like, we only have one human life, and if a given level of physical skill can be attained by one person, then logically it can be attained by that person again. And that your skill in Kung Fu is going to derive from how much effort you put into training and how intelligently you apply that effort. And the safe thing, I guess what I'm trying to convey is that the safe thing for him to do would have been to continue his training by going to Hong Kong, by seeing exactly what they did in Yip Shui's school, and coming back and doing it exactly like they did it in Hong Kong forever, and we'd still be doing Samba Jin, and Jiaga Tong Long is a wonderful style, and it's a beautiful style, but what I believe is that what we have with Lin Wan Sam Sao is superior, and I believe it's superior for fighting. And Lin Wan was derived as a fighting art. It was intended as a fighting art. I've had the opportunity to use it in the real world as a fighting art, and it's performed exactly as it should. And I am the direct beneficiary of Sifu Tony's courage and foresight and wisdom, and it's appropriate that I pay credit to him at this time. So I won't take up much more of your time. I'll finish on this. As I look back on my Kung Fu journey, and I've had the opportunity over the last days to reflect a little, and about how Kung Fu changed me, and about what Kung Fu gave me and what it didn't give me. Yeah, it didn't. Becoming a Sifu didn't make me a Superman, and the training changed me. So the biggest mistake I ever made in my life was thinking that somehow when I attained some level, or there was going to be something waiting for me that was better than what I had in the present moment. When I look back, some of the best days in my life were before I was really very skilled in Kung Fu, when I was training hard, when it was all in front of me, when I was a brown belt, when I'd just become a black belt, when I wasn't a senior student, when I used to go to senior training and get beaten up badly every Saturday afternoon by Sifu Steve Munson, and just thinking about those days now, I can still remember Sifu Steve's smiling face when he used to crack me in the face with his round punch again and again and again. And my point is that looking back on my life, those were some of the best days in my life. So Sifu has always said to enjoy your training and enjoy its benefits, and that really there's nothing waiting for you that's going to be magical at the end of the rainbow. It really is all for you here in the present moment. And I'll finish on this, which is something that Master Dr. Tan said to me once, which is that when you drink from the water, you have to be aware of its source. And I really have a great respect for the fighting masters of Chow Gao Tong Long and Lin Wan Sam Tao who've gone before us. So thank you very much, everyone.